Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Black Logic. We got a couple of stories for you guys today. I don't know if you guys are aware that the judge upholds Trump's conviction in a hush money case, but the judge also signals that Trump will not be receiving any jail time. Of course not. And also Trump's stance in his reversal on TikTok ban sparks a lot of debate on his stance and the change therein. The certain changes that Governor Hochul for New York is doing as well. More insight on the Green Beret who committed the terrorist attack in front of Trump International Hotel, as well as the U.S. Surgeon General advocates for cancer warnings on alcohol, as well as update with Israel doing a raid on the Iranian missile facility in Syria. So let's get right into it. So a New York judge has upheld President-elect Donald Trump's conviction on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records related to a scheme to suppress allegation of an affair with an adult film star Stormy Daniels during the 2016 election cycle. The sentencing is scheduled for January 10th, just 10 days before his inauguration as the 47th president. Now, not to go deeper inside of this particular story, but it reminds me that majority of billionaires, when they get caught doing crimes or been convicted of crimes, they never serve jail time. And if they do serve jail time, a lot of them take their own life. Look at Epstein. Now, a lot of people are referring to Bernie Madoff because he had a very elaborate scheme of, fraudulent investments, but that's how he got his billions. But if you somehow became a legitimate businessman, your Jeff Bezos, your Donald Trumps, your Elon Musk, and then you started getting into some sort of criminality, a lot of those guys never receive any jail time. Now, Judge Juan Merchant indicated that Trump is unlikely to face jail time, but of course, he's the 47th president of the United States of America. Instead, expected to receive an unconditional discharge, meaning no jail, no fine, or no probation. The decision follows months of legal battles where Trump lawyers argued against the sentencing based on presidential immunity, despite suggestions to delay sentencing until the end of Trump's oncoming term. The judge opted to bring the case to resolution before the inauguration. I guess my question is, when Donald Trump is finished his second 4-year term, where people on local, state, and or federal level come out of Donald Trump? Now, can presidents sign or can they pardon themselves? Now, according to the Constitution, there's really nothing to cover this. So again, I believe that presidents can, when it comes to federal cases, can pardon themselves. So don't look for any federal charges to come upon Donald Trump because he will be pardoned. But when it comes to state and local, I think that's still going to unfold as his presidency comes to a close. Now, this outcome has generated significant public discourse with opinions divided on the implication of the sentencing and its timely relativity to the inauguration. Now, as the date approaches, it remains to be seen how this legal development will impact the political landscape and commencement of Trump's presidency. Now, in a surprising turn of events, President-elect Donald Trump has requested the Supreme Court to delay the enforcement of a law that would require the sale or ban of the Chinese-owned social media app TikTok by January 19th. This marks a reversal from his 2020 stance, where he sought to ban the app in the United States over national security concern. And this is why I'm referring to that, whether it be Donald Trump or other people who he's selecting and electing to his cabinet, how they're changing their stance. And it seems as though on some things, like even the H-1B visas, the things that they were totally against and increasing are some of the same laws and legislation they were using to up plus a lot of their businesses. So a lot of people in the far right are crying foul, like, okay, well, you guys were against illegal immigration. You guys were against this mass, even legal immigration, where we was going to slow and decrease. But now you are reversing your stance. After you win the election, you're changing your mind. You're doing everything that we thought you wasn't going to do. So a lot of the American people who voted for Trump on some accords are crying foul that this is not why we elected you. We wanted you to empower America. We thought you ran on America first, make America great again. So again, those two sort of ideology, America first and make America great again, could be vastly different. Make America great again could be by any means necessary, whereas a lot of people are looking at America first, meaning Americans first, not just American first. So again, that's how people are now looking at some of the stances that Donald Trump seems as though he has reversed or changed his mind on. Now, Trump's recent plea argues for additional time post-inauguration to seek a political resolution, suggesting a shift towards a more diplomatic approach in addressing the app's security implications. The Department of Justice, however, has urged the Supreme Court to reject this request, emphasizing the significant national security threat posed by China's control over TikTok due to data collection on approximately 170 million Americans. Now, we all know Governor Kathy Hochul because she is advocating for expanded involuntary commitment laws in response to a surge in violent crimes on the subway system. Her proposal aims to allow authorities to compel more individuals with severe mental illness into treatment, citing public safety concerns. However, the plan has faced criticism for its vagueness and potential civil liberties implications. Critics argue that without clear guidelines and adequate resources, such measures could lead to unjustified detentions and fail to address the root cause of mental health crisis altogether. Now, and again, I don't know if they're just going around New York, whether it be the homeless or people who on the subway who seen or they deem having mental illness and just collecting them all up and then committing to some sort of insane asylum. Is that a part or that's some resonant of martial law where you're just collecting U.S. citizens because you deem they have some sort of mental illness? But again, there has been this increase of crime in New York City. Now, New York City have always had their share of crime, but there's definitely been an uptick. It states here that many of these horrific incidents have involved people with serious untreated mental illnesses. And that is what the governor is stating there altogether. Listen in. Now, there's no audio, but they're just showing still pictures here. But I definitely wanted you guys to at least look at some of the things that are occurring in New York. And they're just, I'm going to speed this up just a little bit so you can kind of get what's going on. Someone pushed a person on the subway track in New York. Okay. Yeah, New York is turning into a hellhole very, very quickly, very fast. I wouldn't want to live in New York at all. I just wouldn't want to live in New York at no given time. New York is really turning out to be very, very bad altogether. So yeah, I definitely want to live in New York, family. I definitely want to live in New York. Nonetheless, so just to give you guys a brief update with the new information, we know that a decorated 37-year-old Green Beret, Matthew Livensberger, caused an explosion outside of the Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas, leaving notes praising Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Tragically, Livensberger died by suicide following the incident to a gunshot wound to his head. Friends and family have revealed that he has been struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and mental health issues, shedding the light on challenges faced by veterans returning for service. And I don't know if you guys caught the broadcast when I was stating that any service member, no matter their military branch, they should have pre and post psychological evaluations so there's an established baseline to see if their ideology, the way they think about things, their cognitive ability, their critical thinking, whatever comes from those tests, so they know there's a change where veterans can get help. Now, as I stated before, there's certain elite groups that may go through psychological evaluations. If you retire or if you separate, more than likely there's some sort of psychological evaluation, but it's not enough because you never had a baseline of where that soldier, Marine, airman, or sailor were before they went inside the military altogether. And I think that, and I knew they were going to come out and say that he had PTSD. If you guys noticed that, I told you that they were going to come out and say that he has PTSD or some sort of mental health issues. That's usually the case when they have cases like this. Now, Livensberger, who has served in the Army since 2006 with deployments to Afghanistan, was known for his dedication and patriotism. However, he faced significant mental and physical pain that attribute to the traumatic brain injury and PTSD. In letters found on his cell phone, Livensberger described the event as a wake-up call for the United States, aimed at drawing attention to the country's issues. Now, I don't know specifically what was in those letters. Hopefully, they will release them. But he stated in these letters that it was a wake-up call for the United States, aimed at drawing attention to the country's issues. What issues is he referring to? And again, we can get into a lot of conjecture. We can hypothesize all we want. We'll just be guessing. We'll get into a lot of rhetoric, and I don't think that serves justice to what he meant. What does he mean by that? What does he mean by that? Because this tragic incident underscores the pressing need, as I stated before, for the comprehensive mental health support for veterans. It highlights the importance of addressing the psychological challenges that many service members face upon returning to civilian life as the investigation continues. Now, when I retired from the military, it was an adjustment. It took me about a year or 2 years. But I say the real adjustment came from a mindset that I started to develop 5 years before I retired. I really tried to engulf the way civilians thought about things, the way civilians talk. And some people are like, well, the way military categorize civilians versus military, like they're some sort of aliens. Now, when you've been indoctrinated inside the military, quote unquote, when you drink the Kool-Aid, when you look at a civilian, you don't look at them like a regular person, or you don't look at them like a soldier, Marine, sailor, or airman. They're just different. We look at them very, very different because we've been metamorphosized. We've been transformed. So there is a difference. And to merge and to accommodate yourself back into civilian life, there has to be more time for us to transition into that way of life. We're used to structure and discipline, infrastructure. We're used to somewhat rigid confines to the way we go about things. We know exactly what time we're getting up. We know exactly what we're wearing. We know exactly where we're going, and we know the exact time that we do those things. Civilian life is not like that at all. Civilian life is not like that at all. All the excuses that you hear in your job, do military personnel have that? Sometimes. But for the most part, your butt is to be there wherever they tell you to be, the right time, the right uniform, and follow orders. That's not civilian life. You can weasel your way out of so many things in civilian life. Oh, I hurt my stomach. They tell you to go to sick call. Sick call say, take some Motrin. Take some naproxen. You're good. Get back in there. Go back to the fight. Whatever it may be. Go back looking at the inventory numbers or go whatever it may be. There's thousands of tasks that military members do all the time, but there's no weaseling out of most things. And if you continue to do that, they see a pattern of behavior and they administratively discharge you. And that could be a bad thing on your record, failure to adopt, bad conduct discharge, dishonorable discharge, other than honorable discharge. There's all these ways that it could hurt you in your civilian life, but there needs to be about a year that most service members need to really transition back into civilian life. It's not an easy thing. You're going into your job, just call me Bob. Yes, sir. Well, you just can call me Bob. Yes, sir. I will call you Bob, sir. Okay. You don't have to keep saying, sir. Oh, okay, sir. It's very difficult to come off that high horse because that is the way you've been for a very long time, day in and day night. It can be Sunday, 7 p.m. You're watching Sunday Night Football. You get a call from your commander. You get a call from your first sergeant, your sergeant major. Hey, we need your buddy here right now. We have a mission. Yes, sir. Roger that, sergeant major. And you're in there. You're in there in 30 minutes, fully dressed, getting your equipment ready to go. That's the military. Now, if someone called you on your civilian job, say, hey, John, we need you to come in on Sunday around 7 to work. Oh, no. I already have something planned. I won't be able to do that. It's a very, very vast difference between the two. So I'm just trying to give you guys some insight of how the transition can be difficult for a lot of people, okay? It can be difficult for a lot of people. And I'm just stating a very arbitrary number when I say it takes most people 1 or 2 years. It may take people 5 years, and some people never change. Some people are always in military mode. So we have to look at that as well. Moving right along. Now, the Israeli military, has released footage of a daring commando raid on the underground Iranian missile factory in Syria. Conducted in September, this operation targeted a facility producing precision missiles intended for Hezbollah. The successful mission is being hailed as a significant blow to Iran's military infrastructure in the region. Analysts suggest that this raid demonstrates Israelis' commitment to countering Iranian influences and a willingness to undertake high-risk operations to ensure national security. So let's go ahead and look at this very quickly. Let's see if we can get the graphics up here so you guys can take a look. Here we go. Again, the sound is kind of shoddy. It's coming in and out. But these are Israeli. They're monitoring the angle. Again, they are raiding an Iranian missile facility. You know, things of this nature kind of just bring memories back, kind of give me chills of my time in the Marine Corps and the Army as well. Just, I don't know what it does. I don't want to get into it. Let's see here. Give me a second. All right. Now, in a significant public health announcement, U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy has called for updated warning labels on alcoholic beverages to include explicit information about the increased risk of cancer associated with alcohol consumption. And as you guys are probably watching some of the football games, I think there's a football game today and of course the football games tomorrow. Americans all around the world, people are drinking their adult beverages as they pleasure themselves while they're watching the game. But this move aims to raise awareness among Americans, as studies indicate that only about 45% of the population is aware of the link between alcohol and cancer. Dr. Murthy's advisory highlights the alcohol is responsible for approximately 100,000 cancer cases and 20,000 cancer deaths annually in the United States, surpassing the total number of alcohol-related traffic fatalities. The types of cancer linked to alcohol includes breast, caloric, esophageal, liver, mouth, throat, and voice box cancer. The current health warning labels on alcoholic beverages, which cautions against drunk driving and general health problems, have not been updated in 36 years and do not specifically address cancer risk. Now, the Surgeon General's proposal seeks to inform the public better by including cancer risk warnings on these labels, similar to the warnings found on tobacco products. And I don't know if you guys have traveled. I've been to over 40 countries in the world. And when you go, and I used to smoke cigars a lot. I really cut down. I'm letting the cat out the bag here. I probably smoke a cigar once every, probably once every 2 or 3 months. I really cut down very significantly. When you go overseas and you buy either cigarettes or cigars, they have all sorts of horrific pictures to discourage the public from smoking the poison, but they still allow for you to sell it. Now, we know in Singapore, you can't even chew gum. So now implementing such labeling changes would require congressional action for the historical precedents with tobacco regulations. Industry groups such as the Beer Institute and Distilled Spirits Council emphasize moderation, and studies suggest lowering mortality rates with moderate alcohol consumption. However, new studies indicate that any amount of alcohol increases cancer risk, any amount of alcohol, underscoring the importance of public awareness and education on the issue altogether. And I also wanted to show you guys what the Surgeon General is stating here. It states here, let me go down a little bit. It says, many people out there assume that as long as they're drinking at the limits or below the limits of current guidelines of 1 a day for women and 2 for men, that there is no risk to their health or well-being. Now, the Surgeon General came out with a tweet. Today, I'm releasing a Surgeon General's advisory on the causal link between alcohol consumption and increased cancer risk. Alcohol is the 3rd leading preventable cause of cancer in the U.S., contributing to about 100,000 cancer cases and 20,000 cancer deaths each and every year. That is with the Surgeon General. And to go a little bit further, it states that Ireland recently became the first country in the European Union and the 2nd country worldwide after South Korea to better regulate booze by adding cancer warnings and health information to alcohol products, while the U.S. hasn't updated its own alcohol warning labels in 36 years, despite the fact that we've learned a lot since then about alcohol and its associated health risks. So I wanted to guys show you a couple of graphics. And if you have small kids, if you have people who are squirmish about certain things, please go ahead and turn this video off or remove them from the room. Because again, we have to be very, very careful. When we go to these other countries, you're going to see a lot of graphic images here, and they got them by country. Look at this, Australia. Smoking caused irreversible damage to the back of the eye. This is known as macular degeneration, central vision is lost. Australia, look at this. Smoking causes mouth and throat cancer, okay? And again, I know people who smoke may not want to see this because this will discourage you, but this is what other countries that I've been to, this is what they show. These are the images that they show. When you go get a pack of cigarettes or you go get a cigar, they have these very graphic images on here. Like, look at Brazil. Okay, that's in Portuguese. Okay, tobacco smoke can kill babies. Look at this child here. They're really trying to deter the public from smoking. Look at Djibouti, showing some form of throat cancer. Egypt, they have all these graphic pictures. It goes on in Malaysia. Look at this. Cigarette causes gangrene. Mauritius, smoking causes heart disease. Yeah, these would definitely change a lot of people's mind. And that's why America has not done it. America is one of the few countries that show these images. Even though we smoke cigarettes, vape, as well as cigars. Okay, this means a lot to me because this is quite daunting. Okay, again, Turkey, they're showing a healthy lung versus a cancerous lung. They're showing you what smoking can do. Okay, unfortunately, have babies on here as well. On Venezuela, so that is in Spanish. Say, Fuma causa malaliento. Wow, gum cancer. Okay, yeah, they're showing some very graphic pictures here. I won't go down all of them, but I definitely believe that you guys catch my drift. I thank you all for joining me here this evening. Good evening, Volvo, DSB, my warrior brother, Jermaine Anderson, my great moderator. Thank you all for joining me here this evening. DSB states, I did mostly cover security during my time in Iraq. Okay. Well, thank you for your service. I do appreciate it. But nonetheless, family, that's what I have for you guys this evening. You guys have a great and wonderful evening. This is Black Logic.